people that listen to our show outside of Arkansas, outside the South. I don't really know, but me and a few of my buddies and two or three guys that watched the show, we went and played golf the day after Christmas, and it was like beautiful, short sleeve. It was 70 degrees. It just didn't feel like Christmas. Besides, like when you walk into the house and you see all the Christmas stuff and you watch some Christmas movies. I went to the in-laws' house just because my parents are in New Mexico. They didn't come back until Christmas night, and then we had my family's Christmas yesterday. Um, and I'm at the age now to where you don't really get much stuff from your parents just because it's like, you're getting older and they make money just like you do. So you don't really rely, I guess, on them to get you Christmas, or I don't anyways. So I rely a lot on my fiance to get me stuff. She got me pretty much everything I could ask for. We don't have kids, so we have dogs. So, we probably ended up spending more money on our dogs than we spent on, each other, just because you see things and you buy them. But other than that, it was good, man. I got socks for my grandma, and that pretty much lasts me for the rest of the year. So you don't really, if you're under the age of about 21 and you're still in school and you're getting Christmas presents and stuff like that, and somebody gets you socks and you complain about it, just give it 5 or 10 years, and then you'll be like, Christmas is coming up. I'm getting socks, and I'm looking forward to it.
What's up, Nate? Welcome to the chat. He said was a great round, even though we played like crap. I kind of heard that was the consensus from everybody who went. I got
Yeah.
um, I got this quarter zip for Christmas from my brother, and then I got this little handy dandy coffee cup. I guess it's pretty well known now that that's what I do all the time is drink coffee. So I'm wearing it out of honor because it's not cold outside. But I figured I'd wear it just for kind of the vibes of winter and December. We're almost at New Year.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but yeah, I had a good one too. Christmas for me is like it's like a NASCAR race all day. You got to go here. You got to go here.
Yeah.
I got to go
Yeah.
here. I got to go here. Everyone wants to see the baby. Everyone wants to, So by the time I laid down on Christmas, I was petered out. And then I had another Christmas the day after. But it was good, though. I also had to work the day after Christmas, which super sucked. But it wasn't a bad day. It was not bad. I'm really grateful. Really, my family made it a great Christmas for me. Kind of, usually around this time, you're looking forward to a bowl game and
Yeah.
it kind of lessened the heartache to watch teams like LSU lose last night. And
Yep.
I watched Minnesota. I was cheering for New Mexico. I was like, wow, it'd be super cool. Watched Army beat Connecticut real bad.
Did you
And
happen to
also,
watch the?
sorry.
Go ahead. No, I was
Oh,
saying I watched the Georgia Tech game,
mhm.
the Georgia Tech BYU game. Great game. It was kind of funny the way that it ended. It reminded me a lot of, you know, what's the movie? Friday night. Is it Friday Night Lights with the quarterback and they lose the game at the end? In that the Panthers. You know who I'm talking about?
No idea. Never
Uh,
seen it.
I gotta look it
Not a
up. Go
big,
ahead.
not a
My
big
bad.
football movie guy over here.
Are you not? That's crazy.
Nope, sure ain't. But no, I
Go
will say
ahead.
this:
Sorry, I'll bring it back up.
bowl games aren't they aren't great. Like they don't mean anything. They don't. I mean, let's just face the music on this. Bowl games don't mean anything anymore, but they are fun. I mean, they're fun. You get to see the Pop Tarts running around. You see Georgia Tech losing away, and the announcer said he missed that ball by a sprinkle. Like that was just chef's kiss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they make them really fun. So I know like there's a lot of discussion on do bowl games matter. You have a bunch of opt outs. It's not what you it's not what it was 10 years ago. Um,
Yep.
but I will say I think there's something to be held like special still because you have stuff like Snoop Dogg's Bowl now, and you have the Pop Tart
Yeah.
Bowl, and even the Texas Bowl. The Kinder's Texas Bowl was pretty cool to watch. And you're gonna have cool bowls coming up. I mean, the Music City Bowl is always one that I watch. Um, the where's the bowl at? The one in Florida that all the SEC teams play if they win 9 games. That one's coming up before too long. Or maybe they played it yesterday. Was that the one Missouri was in, maybe? Yes, the Gator Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, there's bowl games that, like, are special. And I think to an extent, with the time of year and as busy as everyone is, to have something that you can turn on that doesn't really have a whole lot of implications, but you can cheer for a New Mexico, or you can cheer for a Southern Miss, or you can watch Pop-Tarts run around the field. I think it's a great thing for college football, and it kind of cuts the seriousness down a little bit, because the college football playoff is all serious and all cutthroat, and it kind of cuts that down a little bit. But let's kind of get into these college football games, these playoff games. That's what we're all here for. That's kind of the allure, the age-old tradition of New Year's big bowl games are coming. But we're starting off Wednesday night, 6:30 in AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Miami and Ohio State. Right now, Ohio State opens up as a 9.5-point favorite, Justin. I'll let you go first, but the questions I want to ask are, because I want to get your perspective on this. What does Ohio State have to do to lose? Like, what has to go wrong? And what does Miami have to do to maybe take advantage of what could go wrong for Ohio State?
I think, how do I want to say this? So I think, I'm definitely going to get back. But I think bowl games are weird too this time of year, especially the bowl games that you see that are playing right now that don't have any playoff implications. The thing is like, I feel like they do matter for next year. There's certain players that are going to opt out. Teams aren't to their full strength. Teams aren't, what they were at the middle of the season. You still get the coaches. You still get the secondary, the players that aren't, transferred, league bound, like stuff like that. So as a whole, now, like you said, and we've talked about it before, some teams are, what was it? It was like 2 years ago. I think Arkansas beat Penn State in a bowl game. I don't remember what bowl game it was, but they beat Penn State.
It was 4.
But then, yeah. But if you look into it, like Penn State was missing like 5 of their front 7, but Arkansas still beat them. If you're a better team top to bottom, well, then you're going to have some secondary rotation players that are good. I'm not saying they should have won. Obviously, they're missing a lot. So I think it helps the team for next year more than it proves anything this year, if that makes sense. It's kind of a weird dynamic, just because, like, they do matter, but they don't matter. It's like, I don't think they definitely don't matter as much as they used to, for sure. But I still think that they, it's a game by game scenario. That's what I'm going to say. Some games matter a little bit more. Some games don't. Last year we had Illinois and South Carolina play. They were both young teams, and everybody played for both teams. That mattered. Quarterbacks played. Defense played, wide receivers played, all that played. So that's kind of where I'm at with, bowl games. I still enjoy to watch them, but I'm also not just like, this is that. The one thing that I'll say, Mason, it's going to be quick because I talked to you about it before the show and you said you didn't want to argue about it. And I'm not saying this topic to argue about it. I'm just saying, coming from a non-SEC fan, because a lot of people that watch our show are SEC fans. Utmost respect to you guys. For the longest time, the SEC ran college football, completely owned that, hand to the sky. I'll say it. It doesn't bother me because that's something that happened. Now the tides are kind of turning, and you hear a lot of coaches in the SEC. Lane Kiffin's done it. Steve Sarkisian's done it. Kirby Smart's done it. Where if they lose a game or if, people are kind of diminishing their schedule, the first thing they go and do is say, oh, well, it just means more in the SEC. Our teams are just that much better than every other conference. So it's harder on a week in and week out schedule base to beat X team, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, whatever, whoever they're playing. You've heard it. I've heard it. It's all over ESPN, and ESPN announcers talk about it pretty, greatly about how much better the SEC is. Okay, if you still want to say that, then you can't be 2-4 in bowl games. And the only 2 bowl games that you won is against another SEC team, which one SEC team had to win, and then you won against Tulane. Now, like I also said, teams are also differently matched because, like we talked about earlier, Vanderbilt's missing out their All-American tight end. Completely get that. But if your conference is head and heels over everybody, like all these coaches and all these announcers on ESPN are talking about, then it shouldn't be a problem. You should not have a losing bowl record. That's the only place I'm coming from. Is if you really want to tout this conference as just being like the 7th or 8th league in the SEC or in the NFL, pretty much is how people talk about it, and everybody else is bottom feeders, then you shouldn't be losing in your bowl games. If you want to lose 1, 2, if you're 4-2, whatever, but you're 2-4. Like at some point we got to start recognizing, like, okay, things are changing in college football, and we can't keep leaning back to 2010, 2011, 2012 and being like, well, it's the same, but it's not the same. It's kind of funny how, which we'll talk about this at the end of the season, because there's some other things that have to happen, because all it takes is Georgia and Alabama making it to the national championship game. And my whole argument that I've been kind of glossing over all year just being toast. That's all I'm going to say about that, Mason, because I know that's not what the show's about today. I just wanted to bring it up because it's something that, a lot of people fight tooth and nail over, and they kind of expect people to just like let it, go under the radar when coaches and ESPN announcers talk about it. Back to the game, Ohio State versus Miami. I think the main thing with Miami and Ohio State, so Ryan Day came out and said that he's calling plays from now on. Brian Hartline's still in the building. He's going to be back to wide receiver coach. But Ryan Day is going to be calling the plays. The first thing that worries me, and I've talked about it all year long, and I talked about it at the beginning of the season with Texas. I talked about it at the beginning of the season with Ole Miss. I talked about it at the beginning of the season with a few different teams. There has not been a college football team that has won the national championship in the playoff era with a head coach that calls plays. The only team that's done it in recent memory was Jimbo Fisher at Florida State. That was back in BCS where they only had to play one game. Anyways,
they also have 30
so with Ryan Day
on that team.
Exactly. What worries me is that Ryan Day is calling plays. It genuinely scares me if we want to win it all. The other thing that worries me is, are we going to get away from the 3 tight end sets? I don't know if that's something that is so ingrained in our offense this year that we can't get away from it. Indiana kind of pointed out a lot of flaws that Ohio State's had, with twist up front and blitzes and doing random things that really throw off the offensive line and make them pass off defenders. They exploited that, and they kind of took it and ran. And when we get into the red zone, which the red zone has been a big problem for Ohio State, not just this year, but all the way back until 2019 when Ryan Day took over the head coaching position. Last year, it kind of got masked a little bit because we had roughly two starting running backs in the backfield for Ohio State. And then we had Chip Kelly, which is a really good scheme guy when it comes to running game. I think I'm going to know within the first quarter, after the first drive, once Ohio State drives all the way down to the red zone, of how the game is going to go and then how the rest of the season is going to go. I feel like personally, if Ohio State can move the ball on Miami, I don't think there's another defense that they'll play until they play Indiana. I don't think Georgia defensively. I don't think Georgia is as good as Miami up front. So that's what I'm going to want to see. Is I think Ohio State would have to lose this game to lose it. I don't think Miami can beat Ohio State.
I think the biggest question for Ohio State coming into this game is a mixture of things. And I'm going to say this for every team. So this is not just me giving another reason to pick against Ohio State. I'm not doing that. You know how many teams last year won their playoff game after a bye week? 0. Nobody did.
Yeah.
Georgia lost. Boise State, Arizona State, and Oregon. Obviously, I think Ohio State's better than those schools. But is there something to be said for that? Okay. Like you said, Miami does have a great front end, and they're a physical football team. The game last week that they played against A&M was one of the most physical games I've watched all year. I can't think of one off the top of my head that it was just the amount of physicality was out of this world. Malachi Toney might be the most electric player in college football. Can't let him get loose.
Yeah.
And if you can't get pressure on Carson Beck, he can beat you. So you got to match their physicality. I don't doubt that Ohio State can do that, but if you come out sleepy, it's going to be kind of hard to just match that. So they're going to have to come out intense.
Yeah.
I'm not confident in Ryan Day. I don't watch Ohio State football like you do, but I'm not super confident in Ryan Day. I think that's a little bit of trouble. But based on how we saw Brian Hartline call that conference championship, it's got to be a little better, I think. But I think the keys to the game are you got to match Miami's physicality out of the gate, and you got to limit Malachi Toney because even in he fumbled last week, but he almost returned a punt. He scored that touchdown. He's the spark that lights Miami. If you lose contain on that, you lose just him on one play, and the tide could turn. Now Ohio State's got some guys like that too. Don't get me wrong. I think Miami has their hands full with Ohio State's offense. But for Ohio State to lose this game, that's what has to happen. Miami has to be more physical, and Malachi Toney has to make plays. With all that being said, I don't see that happening. I think Ohio State probably wins it handedly, and I'm not saying 40 points. They probably win it by 17 to 21.
Yeah.
I see them controlling that game. I just think it's going to be a slow burn type of control thing. I don't think it's going to be a big hit and then a big hit. It's not going to be the Rose Bowl. I'll just say that. It's not going to be the Rose Bowl. It's going to be what they've kind of done all year to win, what I feel like. Obviously, you're picking Ohio State, but why are you picking Ohio State?
I just think it's the exact same thing we've seen last year, but Ohio State's better this year. If the team can come out like they did against Tennessee, against Oregon, against Texas, against Notre Dame, especially those first two, I don't see anybody in the country beating us again. But it's really going to determine if we still keep up with the 3 tight end sets. That's what's going to determine Ohio State's college football playoff run. Is are we going to get away from the 3 tight end set, or are we going to leave our playmakers on the field? We have the best 2 wide receivers in the country. We have a quarterback with the highest completion percentage since 2019, Joe Burrow. And it's actually higher. Not saying that he's Joe Burrow. I want to get that extremely clear. I'm just saying he leads the country in deep ball percentage, and it's not like he's only thrown 5. I think he's only thrown 5 less than the top 10. So he's up there with deep balls. They do run kind of I don't want to say dink and dunk offense, but if he gets through his progressions, he's not scared to check it down to a tight end or a running back. The biggest thing for Ohio State is you got to take care of Julian Sand. Like you said, don't let Malachi Toney get loose, and then put pressure on Carson Beck. Ohio State has a great D-line too. They're not talked about as much as Miami's. I think it has the potential to get really ugly. I could see a 35-10 type game. Because as much as I do think Miami's defense is good, I just don't feel like, and this is kind of everybody, is there elite defenses left in the college football playoff? Ohio State's an elite defense. Indiana's an elite defense. Those are really the only 2. I wouldn't say Georgia's an elite defense. I wouldn't say Miami's an elite defense. They're good defenses. I'm not calling them elite. That's just my personal
Miami's
opinion.
defensive line and linebackers are good enough to give anyone trouble, though.
Yes, I think they could give them trouble. I just don't feel like my whole thing is like what is trouble for Ohio State? I mean, they played Indiana, so I guess holding them to 10 points is trouble. Do
Well, I
you
mean,
think
they're not going to be able to run the ball, I don't think. I think they're going to have to be able to. I mean, I don't think Ohio State is going to have the ability to run the ball. I think Texas A&M is a better rushing offense than Ohio State, and I don't think Texas A&M. I mean, Texas A&M couldn't run the ball; they could not, and I think that's
yeah.
going to spell some trouble for Ohio State. I think Miami's not going to be on the field much. Is kind of the script for this game. I think it's a 3-and-out type of game for Miami. Maybe they make some first downs, but you can't beat Ohio State like you beat A&M. I think you're going to have to extend drives. Like Indiana's offense didn't kill Ohio State. I mean, we can all admit that. Indiana's offense did not kill Ohio State. Indiana's offense kept their defense off the field enough to where they weren't gassed in the fourth quarter. They were able to make stops. They were able to keep putting pressure on Julian Sand.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Miami's got to be able to do the same thing. You've got to be able to extend drives, and that doesn't mean you're coming away with points. You might only come away with 3. I mean, you might have 6 points at the end of the first half, but if Ohio State only has 7 points, you're in great shape. That's I think that's kind of what they got to be. Or Malachi Tony has to return a punt and get an 80-yard touchdown. I mean, those are the only 2 ways Miami's going to win this game. But I will say it is possible.
Yeah, no, yes, I would. That's kind of my standpoint on it too. I don't feel like Miami's going to be able to move the ball on Ohio State. I just don't think that they're good enough offensively. But I also think that as much as you don't have trust in as much as you don't have trust in Ryan Day, when it comes to playoff games, I have trust in Ryan Day because I feel like he coaches loose. He did it against Clemson in 2020. He did it against Alabama in 2019 or 2021. I know it was a blowout, but if you watch that or in that same year, I know it was a blowout Alabama-wise, but that was mainly defense that gave up that game. But he was running stuff that he didn't run all year because he knows he's going to have to put it all on the field to win the game, and that's how he approaches every game. Just like I know we lost, but 2023 Georgia, like he scored more points on that Georgia team than anybody had all year.
Mm-hmm. I lost you. I can't hear you no more.
You're connected. Oh, God.
I can hear Randy. Let me mute you real quick. Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties. We'll move on real quick. Sorry to the Oregon Texas Tech game. That's the 11 o'clock. Let me know. Give me a thumbs up if you're good. You can't hear me now? Okay. It's like okay. I'm gonna start talking about the Oregon Texas Tech game. This one's at 11 a.m. It's being played in Miami. I guess it's probably the Citrus Bowl or the Orange Bowl or something. Right now, the line's opening at Oregon 2.5. I think personally, going into this game, you're going to learn more about Oregon than we've learned all year. I know Oregon's won some games against Illinois, but they haven't won a game that has matched a resume that gives them the 5 seed like they got. I thought personally they should have been a little bit lower. But we're also going to have to learn a lot about Texas Tech. So Texas Tech, they beat BYU, they beat Utah. Or no. Yeah, they beat Utah, but they lost to Arizona State. Are you back?
Yeah, my fiance's leaving for work, and my phone connected to her vehicle. I don't know why. I mean, 2025, we can't just keep our phones connected to the headset that's right here. Yeah, it makes no sense to me, but whatever.
But so I was going into Oregon, Texas Tech. Sorry. Do you have one last point on Ohio State? Okay. All right. Well, Oregon, Texas Tech. As I was saying, like I feel like this is a game where we're going to have to learn a lot about whoever wins it. To me, Oregon hasn't proved much. I don't think that they're a bad team, but to me, they haven't beat the highest of competition on their schedule. I think they're a little overrated seed-wise. Not to say that I don't think they deserve to be in, but I think they're a little overrated seed-wise. And I don't like this matchup for them because Texas Tech has a front line that can run. They got speed all over the field. They got good linebackers. They got a great D end. My biggest question is, can Texas Tech dominate offensively? And I don't think so. So I think this is a game where if Oregon can just put up like 28 points, I think they win. I think it's – but the thing about Texas Tech is Texas Tech has won basically all their games off turnovers. They force turnovers. They get after the quarterback. They force picks. Oregon's quarterback is young, but he's played good all year pretty much. He's coming from a system where he also had to run around and make plays in UCLA. I just think it's a scenario where for Texas Tech to win, they kind of have to force turnovers and not shoot themselves in the foot. I don't really love their offense. Oregon, you can't turn the ball over, and you just got to play the same defense you've been playing all year. What do you kind of think about Oregon, Texas Tech?
I think this game is we're going to find out what Texas Tech actually is. Like we've been talking about them all year. They're in the top 10 of every category and every stat line you can look up when it comes to total offense, total defense, defensive stats as a whole. But have they really played anybody? We always diminish that conference like they don't, they're not good, they're not this, they're not that. BYU just beat Georgia Tech. Like we said earlier, but with that game specifically, we know Georgia Tech runs through Haynes King. They had Haynes King. So, in that whole team, those teams, nobody on their teams are good enough to declare for the draft early or transfer to another school. They're probably going to just play in their bowl game. I'm not going to get into that game. I'm anxious to see if Texas Tech is good enough and can hold up with the horses of Oregon. I completely hear you out. The one team they played all year that was quote-unquote good was Indiana, and they lost at home, and it was pretty ugly. They did beat Penn State. Now, I don't know how you want to calculate that win against Penn State. At the time, it was a big win, but looking back on it, it was a good win, but it wasn't a great win.
I'd rate them about Illinois, to be honest with you.
Yeah. It was at home against the whiteout and all that, but now that Penn State's kind of what they are, you don't look at it as a high regard as what you did back then. Oregon's really weird to me because they're extremely good at running the ball. I think what gets them into problems is their defense isn't consistent enough to keep a high-powered team down for the whole game. I think they do beat Texas Tech, but I think Texas Tech shows hey, I know all of y'all look at us as a G5 team, but we're not. We're up here with the big boys. This is us. We deserve to be here. So I think it's probably a 28-14 game. That's kind of where I'm at. But it's 21-14 until very late in the fourth quarter, and then Oregon kind of drives all the way down the field and scores. That's kind of where I'm at. Mason, side note, and nobody else might know this, but you do. So me and you watch a lot of Josh Pate, and Josh Pate posted Merry Christmas, first Christmas being together with Mrs. Pate or whatever, which is his wife. And
She's super pretty.
Super pretty woman. Seems like a really nice lady. Josh Pate isn't a bad looking dude, but he's not they are
dude,
different.
He's Mr. Clean. He's the Michelin Man.
Yes. Somebody commented on there, and they had to have been a JMU fan because that's who helmet was on their profile picture, and they pretty much said along the lines of crazy. This is the same guy that said the G6 teams are playing out of their league in the playoffs. I was like, geez, how are you going to attack somebody on a Christmas card? But that's where I'm at. I think Texas Tech makes it a close game all the way up until probably midway through the third quarter, maybe the beginning of the fourth, and then it kind of just gets out of hand.
I'm going to pick against myself at some point. If you're in the bracket challenge, you can see everyone's picks already. So I'm going to pick against Texas. I'm not going to pick against Texas Tech in this game because, I might as well ride with what I already picked. I do think Texas Tech wins just because that's what I picked already. I think in order for them to win, they have to force some turnovers. They got to get after the quarterback. And they're a momentum team, kind of. Every time they've beat BYU or Utah or whoever, it's been based off the back of like big defensive plays. I think they're going to make it, and that's how they're going to win the game. We're going to save probably, I don't know what game. We're going to do about time slot. Yeah, time slot. So the next game is the Rose Bowl, which, by the way, best atmosphere. I know it's not the biggest stadium. I know it's the oldest, best.
It's the granddaddy of them all.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'll say this. I hate that the Rose Bowl is not the traditional bowl that it was, because I loved seeing Oregon and Wisconsin or Ohio State and Utah or whatever. But it is cool to see some SEC teams there, I guess. I just wish – this is what I wish. This is why I'm complaining about this. I'll just go into it. Whenever it was just a traditional bowl game, you got to see cool rose-themed uniforms.
Yeah.
Ones that come to mind, Utah. They had the UU with the rose running through it. That was super cool. TCU had it with the rose in the frog's mouth. That's special. You're probably not going to do that for Alabama. Indiana's probably not. Is this the first Rose Bowl Indiana's ever been to?
Probably, yeah. I would put $10,000 on it, yes. They're the losingest program in all of college football. I don't see how they make it to the Rose Bowl.
Yeah. So, maybe they do because it's their first one. But let's kind of get into this game. Obviously, second half of that game in Norman. Actually, it wasn't even the full second half. From the second quarter, pretty much on, Alabama looked like the Alabama that we saw in October. They got after John Mateer. They were better about, getting at the run. Ty Simpson looked really good. Even now, the stats aren't going to say that Alabama ran the ball well because they didn't. In the second half, they did run the ball well. Jam Miller looked way better. And I think all of those things have to stay true for Alabama to have a chance in this game. I don't think Indiana is going to out-talent anyone. I think Indiana actually is in the bottom three of these playoff teams. They're composite talent rankings. They are. They're in the bottom 3 or 4. But they're very well coached. So you can't make mental mistakes. What has plagued Alabama all year? Missed assignments, dropped balls, and penalties. You can't have any of that. They cleaned that up in the second half. They did get a few lucky breaks in that Oklahoma game. But for Alabama to win this game, you have to be a lot cleaner. You have to be able to make plays. You got to get Fernando Mendoza off the field. Now, this is something that it's hard for me to pick this game because every logic says Indiana, right? Every logic.
Yeah.
I, for some reason, I'm liking the Tide in this spot. Not because I didn't pick Indiana in the bracket, not because Indiana probably isn't the better team. It's just this spot that it's in. I'm really enjoying. I really like this Alabama spot in the Rose Bowl, and I think Alabama probably wins. I think that's my upset of this round.
So here's the only thing I'm going to say, and I don't want to diminish what Alabama did. I'm just going to say last week. I know it wasn't actually last week, but that's just what I'm going to say. But here's the thing. Alabama has played Oklahoma, all the same coaching staffs, 3 times in the last 15 months. They lost the first 2 games. They were abysmal on the offensive side in those first 2 games. They were abysmal on the offensive side through the first 2 quarters of the Oklahoma game recently. It took what's his name? His name's skipping my mind. The head coach. I've said it.
Kalen DeBoer.
Kalen DeBoer. It took Kalen DeBoer and his offensive staff. He's an offensive-minded coach, so I know he has an offensive coordinator, but he's big involved in the offensive game plan of every game. It took them 10 quarters to figure out how to move the ball on Oklahoma's defense. You can implement different formations and stuff like that on the offensive side of the ball. You can change certain things on the defensive side of the ball, but there's certain things you can't change. You can't just start running a 3-man front if you're used to running a 4 and a 5-man front all the time. You can, but you can't do it all the time. What I'm getting into is I just feel like Alabama played Oklahoma enough times to where they figured it out. Now, that's not diminishing what Alabama did on the defensive side of the ball. They came out and they completely stopped Oklahoma in the second half, didn't let them score hardly anything, and they kind of had what they wanted to in that second half. But once you play a team 2.5 times, like you're bound to beat them, and it kind of goes into what I was saying earlier in the year. If you play a team twice, it is hard to beat a team twice, especially if it's close in that first game, and they're close matchups time-wise. Oklahoma and Alabama just played, 3 weeks ago? No, it's more than that.
At this point, it was 6.
Yeah, 6 weeks ago, but it was recent. I don't feel like Alabama has anything for Indiana, personally. I feel like Indiana.
Before you get into that, I will say, just to kind of interject real quick, Alabama did score and move the ball really well on Oklahoma in Tuscaloosa when they played. They just turned the ball over 4 times.
It was they had like 400 and something yards.
They just turned the ball over.
Yeah, you're 1,000% right. I'm not gonna act like
it was the first time they played. It was bad. It was bad. Yes. But it was Jalen Milroe. So, but yeah, keep going. Yes. Sorry.
No, you're good. So with all that being said, and it's really weird to say, 2 years ago, nobody would ever said this. I trust Indiana's coaching staff more than I trust Alabama's. I look at Kalen DeBoer.
I think that's completely fair.
I look at Kalen DeBoer sometimes, and something will happen, and he'll just be like looking on the field like, hey, Nick, I got you on speed dial. What do I need to do here? Because I have no idea. I need your help. Like, that's genuinely what it looks like to me. Like, he looks lost. I feel like Indiana, even though Ohio State didn't throw the ball in that game, Indiana did not match up well against Ohio State's receivers because both of them are 6'3" and 6'4", and they're stallions on the outside that are they're going to be both first-round picks. Alabama doesn't have a first-round pick receiver. I truly believe that. I know they have what's his name? Bernard? Is it Bernard? Is his name the wide receiver, number 5? Or am I tripping?
Yeah, it's Jeremy Bernard or Giovanni Bernard or.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Giovanni Bernard was actually a Bengals running back. My bad. I think it's Jeremy Bernard.
Yeah, he's a good player, but he's not some game-changing athlete. He's a good player. Not going to take that away from him, but he's nothing like – I think Indiana is going to be fine on the defensive side of the ball. I know they're missing their big-time defensive tackle, but it plays well for Indiana because what does Alabama not do great? They don't run the ball great. Yeah. So it's like, and I know they ran the ball good in the second half or okay in the second half against Oklahoma, but it's like Oklahoma also had to change some stuff because they were getting scorched in the back end. I think it's going to be 21-10, maybe 24-10 type game, Indiana. And Kirk Cignetti having a month to get these guys pissed off really worries me.
And I would agree. I agree with everything you're saying, honestly. It's just, okay, I do think DeBoer is a good coach. I think DeBoer, he led Washington to a natty. And I think DeBoer wouldn't be sought after by every coaching opening that's been big.
Yes.
It's been like, oh, is Kalen DeBoer going there? I feel like it just gives me a lot of trust that you saw a lot of fight out of Alabama. You did see the run game improve. And I think if they just – I picked them to win the national championship in October. There was a reason why I did that. By the way, guys, I don't know if you see this hog on my hat and this hog on my chest and the hog and Darren McFadden on my wall. I hate the Alabama Crimson Tide. I didn't pick them because I'm an SEC fan or an Alabama homer. I'm not. To me, they looked like the most impressive team at that point. I saw
Yeah.
kind of that light again in the
Yeah.
second half of that game. And it's not that I think Indiana's a bad team. It's not that I think DeBoer's a better coach. I think they're talented for one. And whenever you see everything clicking with that team, it is a scary team to see. And I hate this matchup for Indiana because, like you said, their corners are undersized. And
Yeah.
yes, Ryan Williams is incredibly overrated.
Yep.
But the rest of that receiving core isn't bad. Jam Miller's
No.
really electric when he gets the
Mhm.
ball in space. He hasn't had a lot of space this year. And Ty Simpson, to me, whenever he is not turning the ball over, whenever his receivers aren't dropping everything and fumbling, he is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I
Yep.
like Alabama in this spot for those reasons. And it's not – I think this might be the best game of the day. Outside of maybe this next one we're going to talk about, the rematch is there anything else you want to talk about before we get into that game? Because that's the one I'm really, really excited about.
That not really. I mean, I don't think Kalen DeBoer's a bad coach. I don't ever want that to seem like. I mean, he's coaching Alabama. He's in the playoffs. Every coach in the playoffs is a good coach in their own way. It just seems like in those certain moments where something happens in games, it just seems like he doesn't. You know, like when you used to look at Bill Belichick, or you look at Bill Belichick on the sideline and he's just kind of standing there, just like staring off into space, looks lost. That's what I see with Kalen DeBoer. And since he's got to Alabama, and it's happened even when he was in Washington, his teams have been very undisciplined. Penalties, drops, fumble problems, turnover problems. That's been a thing all the way back to Washington. And I think I've said this to you about Arkansas. I think stuff like that has an immediate reflect on what kind of coach you have in the locker room. Turnovers, discipline problems, penalties, stuff like that. I mean, we've seen it last year, and I know these are two different teams, but last year with the safety that just like completely had a meltdown on the field. Stuff like that is happening this year. It's just in different cases. Ryan Williams is completely god-awful. Hate to say it. Like, he's not good. Even when he gets the ball in his hand, like, he's an okay player, but he doesn't deserve what he's getting credit for. And I feel like it's kind of put a hard problem on. He got so much credit and was viewed as such an elite person and as such an elite athlete that, like, now that he's not good, everybody thought that he should be up there with, Cam Coleman and Jeremiah Smith when he was never supposed to be there. And people are viewing him in that light, and it's like making him look even worse than what he actually is. That's kind of where I'm at with them. I think Indiana's they're not talented. They play great offense, and they play great defense, and a lot of Alabama's players are elite in space. But when you play a defense that is very technically sound, you don't get much space to operate in.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get into maybe for our audience, kind of the biggest game of the day. Georgia and Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl. Now, this is a rematch, and if you remember, well, first I'll tell you the spread. The spread right now is 6.5 Georgia's way. If you remember that game that took place in Athens, this was not a game where Georgia stopped Ole Miss. This was not a game where Ole Miss struggled on half of the game. Half of the game, they looked electric. They looked like the best offense in the country. On the flip, that was the game that Gunnar Stockton really came alive. And then he's kind of carried it through. Ole Miss didn't stop Georgia one time. So going into this game, I hate this for Georgia because Georgia's been sitting on their butt since the SEC championship. And I said I was going to say this for everyone, and I'm staying true to it. Georgia's been sitting on their butt. Ole Miss is fresher. Ole Miss didn't have – Kawan Lacey did get banged up. Aaron, you're in the chat. Tell us, is he going to play, for one? Two, if Kawan Lacey plays, I like that for Ole Miss. But they got a tune-up. They got the engine moving a little bit. They got prepared. They had a game without Lane Kiffin to see how that was going to work. It obviously worked well. Now, they were playing Tulane, so they were afforded that. They didn't have to play Texas A&M or Miami. They were afforded that little warm-up game. But I think for Ole Miss, this is why I think this is going to be a great game. I think Trinidad Chambliss is the most underrated player in the country as far as his numbers, the way Ole Miss's offense moves. Oh, sorry. I was catching something there. Ole Miss's offense, the way they move, is very efficient. Kawan Lacey, if he plays, is very efficient. He gets the ball to his playmakers. And you just don't see Trinidad Chambliss make a lot of bad plays. And here's what Aaron says. He's going to play bruised shoulder per Pete Golden. So that's good news for Ole Miss. And I think they can give Georgia a lot of problems because they're not relying on, outside of Kawan Lacey. I think Kawan Lacey might be the best running back in the country. But outside of Kawan Lacey, they're not relying on a Malachi Tony to make plays. They're not relying on like Fumble Rooski, Hook and Ladder, Statue of Liberty. They're not relying on that. They're kind of like Indiana. They stay ahead of the chains. They stay on pace, and they make plays whenever they have to. And they do make big plays. I don't know who I'm picking yet. I'm going to let you go through your thing. But, I really like Ole Miss's offense in this spot. Their defense has to find a way to get, 3 stops. All I'm asking is 3 stops. That could be the end of the half. I don't care. You got to get 3 stops, and you can win this game.
So, as an Ohio State fan, obviously this all kind of comes down to if we play and beat Miami. I want to play Georgia. I want to play Georgia bad because that's the last team that kind of, I don't know, they beat us in the playoffs and they kept us from going to the national championship. So there's something there that I do want to beat Georgia. But I also want to beat Ole Miss too. That's more of like a personal thing. Personal kind of like, I have friends that are Ole Miss fans. But at the same time, I like the Cinderella story of Ole Miss. They lost their head coach. Their defensive coordinator took over. They brought some people back to call the offense. Trinidad Chambliss's story. All these things. And I've been saying all year long, it is hard to beat a team twice. And Georgia has struggled at points in time of the year on the offensive side of the ball and on the defensive side of the ball. 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks ago, I was talking about how Georgia was fraudulent. I didn't think they were that good because they don't get pressure on the quarterback. I can't name you one starting skill position on Georgia's team. And I don't think that's because I haven't watched much of their games. It's because who is a lead on Georgia's offensive side of the ball? I don't know one. They don't have a George Pickens. They don't have a Ladd McConkey. They don't have their tight end Bowers. They don't have any of that. So the thing is I don't really care who wins. I do want Ole Miss, or I do think Ole Miss is going to win the game. I just think that you can't struggle halfway through the season and then just think that all those problems just magically go away. Georgia beating Alabama in the SEC championship game, they beat them handedly. But also at the same time, Alabama didn't look good for that month and a half that they were playing. So let's not make it think that Georgia beat a really, really good Alabama team. I think Ole Miss is better than Alabama. I think Ole Miss is better than Texas A&M. I think Ole Miss is probably the second best team in the SEC, maybe the best team in the SEC. The thing that does worry me, though, is nobody on maybe transfers. I don't know their team top to bottom. There's nobody on Ole Miss's team that has ever been to the playoffs, for one. And there's nobody on that coaching staff that has ever coached in a game where it's like, hey, it's win or go home. They've been in bowl games, but it's different to try to making it to a national championship. Nobody on their coaching staff has coached to that point. And what's their head coach? Pete Golding, is that the head coach now?
Yep.
For Ole Miss? Yeah, Pete Golding he hasn't been in a game to where you really have to manage the clock. You have to work on your timeouts. You have to think about all these different scenarios. He hasn't been in a situation like that, which does worry me. But with all that being said, I think Ole Miss wins this game, and I want to say it's probably going to be kind of in between a shootout and a slugfest. I think they're going to win 28-24, maybe 35-28. Somewhere along those lines. I think it's going to be a slugfest, but then I think towards the end of the game, it could get kind of one of those, I don't want to say blowout, but one of those kind of, bombs over Baghdad type things. The thing is you have to get pressure on Gunnar Stockton and let your nuts hang. I don't know how else to say it. Pete Golding, just let them hang. Do what you want to do. You have nobody over you telling you to be conservative on the defensive side of the ball. Georgia runs the ball decent, but they're not some elite rushing team. And there's something about Gunnar Stockton I don't like. I don't know what it is. I truthfully don't know why I don't like him. I just don't really care for him. And I hope Ole Miss puts him in an absolute blender.
And I will say, in that first game, Georgia got a lot of chunk plays. Georgia just kept Ole Miss's defense on the field. Gunnar Stockton probably played his best game of his career in that game. And I do think Georgia poses a lot of problems for Ole Miss, as we've already seen. So I think, to an extent, what is Ole Miss going to do to change that? Did Ole Miss gain anybody that they didn't have the first time? No. Did Ole Miss magically figure something out that they didn't know before? Probably not, if I had to guess. And you're missing your head coach. I think that poses a lot of problems.
Yeah.
I think, to an extent, there's something to be said for Kirby in this game. I mean, you're going against a guy who's coaching his second playoff game versus a guy that won 2 national championships. I think Georgia has too much, and I hate it because I really want my friend to be happy. I do. I want him to be happy. I just don't see it playing out that way. I think Georgia probably wins this game and is moving on. As much as I hate to say that, because I hate every SEC team. Don't get me wrong. I hate them all. But I especially hate the ones that win a lot. So, but I think there's something to be said for Kirby Smart and his ability.
And I don't know. Yeah, and Georgia, you know what? I don't know who this is in the comments. Zachariah Branch, he's a fast wide receiver. I didn't know it took crazy skill to catch a screen pass. That's literally what he does. He catches screen passes, and then he does what he does with them, but he's not like an elite route runner. I just don't think that he's that way. That's just my personal opinion. KJ Bolden, great player in the back end, but it's one safety. I just don't. I don't know. I mean, that's just my personal opinion on Georgia. Do I think Zachariah Branch is an athlete? Yeah, he's an athlete. But I don't think he's somebody that's going to route somebody up on a route tree, and he's just going to be somebody that's oh my gosh, this dude's a great receiver. No, he's a screen pass legend. I'm proud of you for having that.
I don't know about Gunnar Stockton being the second coming of Stetson, but also, okay, I won't turn this into a tangent. Stetson Bennett's one of the most overrated quarterbacks of all time, next to Tim Tebow. Go look at that Georgia roster. The Georgia roster is what won that. I mean, he had dogs all over the field. Stetson made plays. I'll give it to Stetson. And if you didn't have Stetson, you don't win the national championship. I'll also give you that. Gunnar Stockton is probably a better football player than Stetson Bennett. I'll just say that. So since we went through the playoff, we made our picks. Let's talk about some bowl games real quick. We want to give them their shine. We're not going to talk about all of them, but we're going to talk about some of the big ones here. Let's start off with the one going on I think it's going on in Nashville. Yeah, at Nissan Stadium in Nashville. Tennessee versus Illinois. Right now the line's 2.5 Tennessee's way. I really don't like this spot for Tennessee. Tennessee's going to have a lot of fans, but Tennessee has some opt-outs. It really seems like Illinois and Brett Bielema don't normally have that. I'm pretty sure Luke Altmaier's playing in the game. And And Tennessee's problem this year has been handling teams that stay on schedule, keep their offense off the field, and make Joey Aguilar make plays. Joey Aguilar is not a good quarterback. Joey Aguilar is an average quarterback that whenever the game really gets tight and it really gets on his butt and he really has to make a play, he folds. And I think Illinois has the potential to do that to Tennessee. I think Illinois wins that game. Really quick, go over that.
Yeah, I think the same thing. I think what does help Tennessee is Illinois doesn't have like some crazy. They are good at throwing the ball, but I wouldn't say that they have like a crazy elite passing attack. And Tennessee's been missing their top two corners all year. I've been saying that all year long. Obviously, they haven't came back. I thought they were going to come back kind of towards the end of the season. They never did. I think Illinois wins the game. I think it's going to be a good game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by no means. I could see it being like 28-21, 35-28, somewhere around that line. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. I would definitely that would be a bowl game that I would say, hey, go ahead and turn that one on. I think it's going to be a good game.
Let's talk about the Liberty Mutual Music City Bowl going on in the Alamo Dome, San Antonio, Texas. You got the USC Trojans with a lot of opt-outs going and playing TCU in the state of Texas. Right now, the line's sitting at USC 6.5. Basically, for everything I just said, I like TCU in this game. I don't know really a whole lot about TCU. They're not a priority watch for me, but I do think TCU wins the game just based on you have your whole team, and USC is missing. They got holes everywhere. They're like Swiss cheese, and I think Lincoln Riley's an okay coach.
Yeah, I personally think USC is going to win. I know they have a lot of opt-outs, but I think they're just going to out-athlete TCU. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I think Lincoln Riley's okay. I don't think he's like an elite coach. I know they have a lot of opt-outs, but I think talent-wise, as a team as a whole, USC's second deep is probably just as good as TCU, and I think their quarterback is really good USC-wise. I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to win the game. Again, I think it's going to be close because of the opt-outs, but I could see a world to where USC kind of runs away with it because they're letting their athletes just be athletes.
Here's another one. This is a pretty good one. Iowa goes to Tampa, Florida to meet the Vanderbilt Commodores in the – I don't know what bowl game that is. It doesn't say for some reason. It's the only one. This is the ReliaQuest Bowl. Right now, the line is sitting at Vanderbilt 4.5. Right before we went on the air, Eli Stover, Vanderbilt's probably actual best player, opted out. Even with that opt-out, I think Vanderbilt probably wins the game just because it's like Johnny Manziel versus Oklahoma. Was Texas A&M better than Oklahoma whenever they played in the bowl game? No. But special players do special things. This is kind of his last hurrah unless somehow Vanderbilt pulls the rabbit out of the hat again and gets him another year of eligibility. I like Vanderbilt in this game. What about you, Justin?
So this is a game that's really funky for me because I think it's going to be another good game. Like, these are games that I feel like are going to be good. I feel like I know Vanderbilt's tight end is opting out. That's going to be a big hit. But Iowa's defense has always been good. I don't want to say that they're elite. They've always played above their talent pool is what I'm going to say, which could cause problems for Vanderbilt. I've been on this like love-hate roller coaster with Diego Pavia. I don't like him, but then I do like him at the same time. He's like the Timu Wish version of Johnny Manziel, but like he tries to be Johnny Manziel. So it's I don't know, man. It's a really weird. I can't decide if I like him or if I don't like him. But what I'm going to say is, I feel like
I like his mom.
I feel like personally, I feel like Vanderbilt's probably going to win this game. I feel like their defense is really good and their offense is good enough to where it's not going to be a 17-10 type game. It's probably going to be more like a 21-28 type game, which does not help Iowa out because Iowa hasn't had an offense since the Stone Ages.
Yeah. Also, over under Pavia's in jail at the end of that game. I'm going to set the line at 3.5. What are we thinking there?
That he's in jail.
No. How many people with the last name Pavia are in jail at the end of the game? By the end of the weekend, we'll say that.
Where's the game at?
Tampa, Florida.
Oh, you said 3.5. I'm going. It might be over. I don't know how many brothers he has. I'm gonna take. Yeah, it might be over. I don't know. That's a good line though. That's a sneaky line. I like that line.
Look. All I gotta say is I gamble a lot, so I know a good line whenever I see one. We got the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl in Orlando, Florida. We got Michigan playing Texas. Right now the line set at Texas 7.5. With everything going on at Michigan, I feel like it would be really bad to take anyone but Texas in this game. Arch Manning's come along as the season's progressed. They got Ryan Wingo, great receiver. Their front seven's one of the best in the country. If we're going off one of the 12 best teams in the country, I would have probably favored Texas to be in the playoff, but they didn't make it. So we'll see how serious they take it. I am taking the Longhorns in that one. What do you think, Justin?
I'm gonna take. Oh gosh. I want to take Michigan personally, but I just feel like with the scandal and all that stuff going on, I think that's a problem. Here's my next question, Mason. Can Whittingham be in, can he help in that, or does he have to stay away?
Would they hire him yesterday or 2 days ago?
Yeah.
I mean, anything helps, I guess. I mean, maybe he's in there. I don't know.
I just didn't know. I just didn't know. Yeah, I just didn't know if there was a thing against him, going in and just saying saying something to the team to kind of get them refocused. I'll think Michigan is a better team, but I don't think I want to say they're going to win the game. I don't think that they are, just because of all the distractions that are going on. Texas is such you don't know what type of team you're going to get. They can either be good or they can either be bad. I think this is one of those games where you're going to have so many opt-outs on both sides of the ball to where it's going to be a true game to say, okay, this is what this team's going to be like next year.
We got another one.
And I do want to say this because no, you're good. I do want to say this. Just because there was kind of some arguments going on in our group chat. I don't know, maybe the person arguing with it left, maybe he didn't. I don't know if he's still in the chat or not. But Zachariah Branch is a dynamic receiver, formerly from USC, who transferred to the University of Georgia and became known for his explosive playmaking, especially after the catch, with an ADOT. If you don't know what that means, I'll inform you. It stands for average depth of target. 3 yards. That seems like a real, just crazy route running receiver that deserves to be elite. And he's not even top 10 in the conference. So, I don't think he's a game. I mean, he can be a game changer, but I don't think he's not an elite receiver. He's a good receiver. He's great after the catch. I don't think he's an elite receiver. Sorry. Go ahead, Mason.
Let's talk about this one last bowl game real quick. The Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, Nebraska and Utah meeting in the Allegiant Stadium, the Raiders Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. Right now the line's set at Utah -14. What do we expect from this game? I don't know. No Dylan Raiola. Matt Rule's still there, I guess. Kyle Whittingham is in Ann Arbor right now, probably cleaning up evidence. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to expect from this game. I'm going to take Utah. I guess I'm going to take Nebraska. I don't know. I don't know who to pick.
Yeah,
I mean, does anyone know?
Yeah, so just from watching the games, like I would turn on Nebraska from time to time because I do like Matt Rule. I really like Nebraska's backup quarterback. I think Dylan Raiola was probably one of the most overrated players all year long. I thought he was okay. I don't think he's that good. Word is that he was trying to go to Texas Tech and wear number 15 and grow his hair out and just maybe follow in the footsteps of his the brother that never wanted him in Patrick Mahomes, but Texas Tech said they didn't want him. So I don't know where he's going to go. He doesn't put great stuff on film. Um, I like Nebraska in this place just because Utah just lost Kyle Winningham, which is like their everything. And I know they're a decent team. I just think Nebraska has a good enough defense to really give them problems. And I truly believe that Nebraska's offense is going to be able to move the ball well enough where Utah really can't. I don't want to say not stop them, but they're going to put up enough points and Utah's not going to score enough, is kind of where I'm at.
I like it. One last thing before we get out of here, I was gonna say, outside of the college football playoff, the SEC has had how many starting quarterbacks play in a bowl game?
Probably
Big
not
fat
many.
zero. And
Yeah.
I would say that probably contributed, but I don't really give a damn about bowls.
Yeah.
So I was just gonna say that for anyone that was, wanting to argue for the SEC, is that is a point you could make. But
Yeah.
again, bowl games don't matter to me at all. Anything else before we get out of here? I do got one more thing. I'm in a fantasy championship, so if you're cheering for anyone today, cheer for your boy. I want to win a
Yeah.
championship.
I'm over. Here's what I'm going to say. So I got beat in a round against somebody that's in the chat. He had a great week. I don't want to diminish what he did. I had a bad week. I should have started some players, but I think I still would have lost. Ever since then, in rounds going forward, I would have been the highest scoring team all through fantasy. Mason, do you have fantasy pulled up, like the app pulled up? Will you go to our league and tell me, because I know I'm still ahead, will you tell me how many points my team has scored more than any other team? You're going to have to go to league, and then I think it goes into standings.
Yeah, I'm here at least 100 over the next highest guy.
Yeah. How does that, like that, and I'm going to tell you this, I guarantee you it'll be the same the next year and the next year and the next year. And it was like that last year and the year before that and the year before that. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I truly don't. How do I score 100 more points than anybody else in the fantasy league? And I'm not even in the championship game. Nor did I make it. I got knocked out in the first round. Oh, well, congratulations to you, Mason. I applaud you for doing that. Congratulations to the guy that beat me. I guess I'll see y'all again next year.
Well, I have a chance to win $200 and a trophy because I made 2 championship games. And last night, Derrick Henry scored 45 points. Clap it up for him. But that's all I got, guys. Make sure y'all like and subscribe. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on TikTok. Follow us on Instagram. Comment if you think we're dumb. Comment if you think we're genius. Comment if you hate the way my breath smells through the computer. I don't care. Give us lots of comments. Give us lots of likes. Just we want to see everything y'all have to say. We want to really engage with our, with people who watch the streams more. And even if you watch the VODs, we want to see the comments. So that's all I got. Make sure y'all have a very happy New Year. Stay safe. Alcohol poisoning is a real thing. Eat your black-eyed peas and your hog jaw. We want good luck, especially if you're a hog fan. I want you to fill up on black-eyed peas and hog jaw. Don't walk any under ladders or walk under any ladders. Don't break any mirrors. Well, we need a good year next year, guys. Fiend, you got anything before we get out of here?
Yeah, so, and I know this is kind of it's such a weird thing now since bowl games are so funky. And I think it's better for us to just mention it on the show than trying to like post stuff and talk about it. Mm-hmm. And we didn't talk about it before the show, but like, when do you want to go live again? Do you want to do that Friday night after New Year's? I'm going on a trip, which I can do it that weekend. It's just going to be harder. I'm going to be gone the 3rd through the 7th. So do you want to do it that Friday, which is the 2nd? pretty much all the playoff games are going to be done and over with, and we're going to be able to react to them and then kind of give our insight on the next because you have
Yeah, that's fine.
10 days. So if you want to do it on that second, I guess it would be night because you probably work. I guess 7:30 on the second. Sound good to you?
Yep. So Friday, guys, Friday, 7:30, we're going to be live again. We're going to react to the New Year's college football second round playoff games, and then we're going to go into what we think are going to, who's going to win the semis. That's what we're going to do. Friday, 7:30. Sounds good to me. Works out for my schedule perfectly. Is there anything else before we go? We've said all the
Yeah,
stuff,
that's
right?
it, man. Like and
Okay.
subscribe. That's
Everybody
it.
have a happy new year. We will see you Friday at 7:30.